This video is brought to you by TeePublic. Get some unique designs made by me on t-shirts, stickers, mugs, you name it. Beetlejuice 2 is coming out, so check out my newest creation and wear it to the movie. Link is in the description. Thank you for your support. Ever since the 90s and especially the 2000s, live-action adaptations of popular cartoons have been a dime a dozen, haven't they? There have been some good ones, and there have been some really, really bad ones. But out of all of them, the most iconic would definitely be the live-action adaptation of the Hanna-Barbera classic, Scooby-Doo. The movie was a big hit for Warner Brothers and spawned several sequels, but in recent years, it's gotten a bit of a resurgence from young adults who grew up with it as kids. But why? It definitely wasn't the first of these live-action adaptations. You don't hear anyone speaking that fondly over something like Garfield or those horrendous Alvin and the Chipmunk movies, or, well, let's leave that alone. But there's something in these live-action films, the first two anyway, that struck a chord with people, and I'm gonna find out what it is. This is my review of all the live-action Scooby-Doo movies, from theatrical to TV to direct-to-video. Let's get started. First, a little history. The idea of a live-action Scooby-Doo film had been floating around since the early 90s. Universal, who had a partnership with Hanna-Barbera at the time, were going to release it in conjunction with Turner Pictures. It was one of the many projects proposed by Hanna-Barbera studio head David Kirshner. It was even teased in the Universal Studios Florida ride, The Funtastic World of Hanna-Barbera.
Sorry, Dazzly, but Elroy's next, followed by the Flintstones. Yeah! Then Scooby-Doo.
A script was written by Greg Titley as early as 1996. The plot would have been about an origin story of the gang meeting in college and working together to stop an ancient demon on a school campus. I read the script and it's actually pretty entertaining. Almost wish this was the film we got. You can definitely tell the writer is a huge Scooby-Doo fan, and Hanna-Barbera in general. As Turner merged with Time Warner, and Warner Brothers took over, the movie spent the rest of the decade in development hell, tossed from writers, directors, and actors like Jim Carrey, who was at one point considered to play Shaggy. Given how big Carrey was at the time, I can only imagine how expensive he would have been. Actress and comedian Janeane Garofalo was originally in talks to play Velma, but one name frequently mentioned was comedian and Scooby-Doo fan Mike Myers, who wrote a script with Jay Coogan in 1998 and was lined up to play Shaggy until his script was rejected and had to bow out. Kevin Smith was also attached to write the film and also left when his partner Scott Moser declined to co-write. But that was also the time he had his sights set on the Nicolas Cage Superman movie. Voice actor Hadley Cage, who had voiced Scooby and Johnny Bravo, was originally hired to voice him in the film, until the studio made some changes.
Like I said, there was no big project until about 2 years into doing it. You know, they just call me in to do these little things. And then they finally said, congratulations, your big movie is coming. Warner Brothers has bought the rights to do the movie with, and this is the one that was with Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Right. Yeah.
And Freddie Prinze Jr. And I was like, that's it. This is what I've been, I've been an actor since I was 5.
My moment is coming. Yeah.
I was like 28, 29 at the time, and I felt like my ticket has come in. And William Hanna himself picked me. I was beating out guys who, these guys are my idols, like people from The Simpsons. The guy from Full House, Joey. And then once Warner Brothers got involved, unfortunately, that's when more people get involved, and they want their people. Originally, they wanted to attach a star to Scooby-Doo.
Right.
And I wasn't. And back then, they wanted bigger names to sell big movies. So, well, they still do, but especially in animation. So they couldn't actually find anyone to do it, but I was out of the running.
Finally, in October 2000, Warner Brothers greenlit the film, and shooting began in Australia February 2001. Scooby himself had a bit of resurgence at the time, with reruns dominating Cartoon Network and home videos and merchandise selling well. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. In the director's chair was Roger Gosnell, whose films are, Another one of the newcomers was writer James Gunn, fresh off of Troma Films' Tromeo and Juliet. James was a huge fan of the original cartoon and was set on writing a straight-up parody, not unlike the Brady Bunch movie. Gunn, in a 2017 Facebook post, revealed how far the original script went in terms of tone and raunchy humor, with many drug and sex references to give it an R rating, and CGI used to cover up cleavage. I don't think it worked. And Velma at one point was going to be a lesbian, and was going to share a kiss with Daphne. In context of the film, it was during the soul swapping scene, and for some reason the kiss was going to get their souls back into their own bodies. I know a lot of people were thrilled about this and thought we were robbed of good lesbian rep, but given the time period, I couldn't help but be a bit skeptical. But then I read an interview James Gunn did with Starlog magazine, and he had this to say. I seriously did 80 drafts of the script and worked on this movie for 2 years. In some drafts, Velma's sexuality was more overt than others, and there were some other things were shot that were more overt. I was like, so what if she's lesbian? I think she is, and Velma is a positive role model. She's awesome. The human members of Mystery Inc. were portrayed by some of the hottest young superstars at the time. Matthew Lillard, known for his roles as Scream in SLC Punk, played Shaggy. Wing Commander and She's All That star Freddie Prinze Jr. played Fred, and Daphne was portrayed by his fiancée turned wife, Buffy the Vampire Slayer herself, the beautiful Sarah Michelle Gellar. Christina Ricci at one point was considered for Velma, until the role went to Freaks and Geeks star Linda Cardellini. Scooby-Doo was brought to light with CGI from now defunct studio Rhythm and Hues. I remember as a kid being in awe of all the things that went into bringing him to life. Scott Ennis, who was the then current voice at the time, was brought in to voice Scooby and recorded most of his dialogue, until he was replaced by Australian stuntman Neil Fanning, who did the voice on set with the actors.
Bored and like, do it again, huh?
Yeah, man.
Now let's get to the movie. First off, I really love how this movie opens. It does have the look and feel of a classic Scooby episode. It doesn't last long, as a fight breaks up the gang and they go their separate ways. Personally, I thought this was done better in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. They all receive invitations to solve a mystery at a popular resort, Spooky Island. Think of it as a Tim Burton Disneyland, owned by the eccentric Emil Monteverdes, played by Rowan Atkinson. And to clear this up once and for all, no, Tim Curry wasn't originally interested in this role and left once he learned Scrappy was going to be in a movie. They all discovered that real demons are haunting the island. Now the gang must put their differences aside to save the world as Scooby-Doo, who the demons are planning to sacrifice. I know you all love this movie, I do too, but taking nostalgia aside, it's a bit of a mess. None of the live action films are what I consider good films, but this one especially has no idea what it wanted to be or who it wanted to appeal to. And sometimes it's a bit too cynical for its own good. I personally admire the wholesomeness of the original series, but I get it, it's a new decade, and audiences want the movies and shows they love to grow up with them. That's not to say I'm against self-parody in general. Some of the best Scooby media has those elements, but when it gets too much, it becomes too cynical, and it becomes, well, this.
Because nothing's trashier or more pedo-tinged than teens in an old van.
God, I fucking hate you. I think the handling of Scrappy-Doo as the villain is a good example. This might have been funny to the very vocal Scrappy haters who are no doubt adults, but if you were 9 years old like I was at the time this came out, you probably would be confused on why Scrappy and the gang are so hostile towards each other. Even more confused if you were unaware of the Scrappy hate and put off by his behavior. When watching it again, the Burbot fart scene goes on a little too long, and the CG monster effects are really bad. Like, wow. But there are some things I love about the movie. One is, big shock, the performances. Matthew Lillard will always be my live-action Shaggy. He gets his voice and mannerisms down to a T. Given how he's the only actor to have the most scenes with Scooby, you really believe he's having a conversation with his CG talking dog. He was so good, Warner Brothers even lobbied for Lillard to receive a Golden Globe nomination. I'm dead serious. It's no surprise Matthew went on to become the current voice of Shaggy once Casey Kasem retired from the role in 2009. I also feel Linda's Velma deserves some credit as well, perfectly replicating the brainy but deadpan snark Velma had in the original. In addition, I love David Newman's score. Some of the side characters are memorable, and some of the jokes are really funny. Another reason I love this movie is it's a weird time capsule of the early 2000s. references to slang and fashion of the era, Little Romeo and Baha Man on the soundtrack, even cameos from prime Pamela Anderson and Sugar Ray. The movie is in a trifecta of films that represent the early 2000s, like Josie and the Pussycats and Clock Stoppers. It's nostalgically dated, but it has its charm. I really love the gothic set design, but I can see how it can be distracting for some. WB promoted the movie like mad. You saw TV spots on all the major kids stations. Dairy Queen sold Scooby-Doo toys with their kids' meals. The cast were seen on talk shows and the 2002 Kids' Choice Awards. Kids WB aired episodes of the original series to help promote the film. Even Minute Maid had sweepstakes where you could win a trip to Australia where the movie was filmed. Not to mention a hit soundtrack and an Outkast music video. The movie was finally released June 14th, 2002, and while many critics gave the movie very negative reviews, including Roger Ebert, who had even admitted to not even seeing the original, the movie was a huge hit at the box office, earning about $275 million worldwide. Yeah, for the longest time I had a love-hate relationship with this movie, but now I can just come around to loving it again. It's incredibly flawed and cluttered, but I see it as a guilty pleasure. And yeah, maybe that R-rated cut doesn't exist, or maybe we'll never be able to find those deleted scenes.
I still haven't found my friend.
Oh, don't worry. She'll turn up. Unless she's dead.
But I still say the movie is a lot of fun, and maybe I can see why it developed such a huge cult following. Now the Ultra Instincts Shaggy memes, yeah, I'll never understand those. I enjoy the performances, I enjoy the early 2000s cheesiness, and even taking the nostalgia out, I still enjoy the movie. If you're a Scooby-Doo fan, there's definitely a lot to like and a lot to be annoyed by, but I still recommend checking it out. I give it 3 boxes of Scooby Snacks. 2 years later, we were given a sequel, Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. This one I remember liking a lot more. In this film, Mystery Inc., who are now the town's celebrities, take down a masked figure who resurrect the ghosts and monsters from the past. If that wasn't bad enough, they also have to deal with a Slimer reporter trying to tarnish their good name. James Gunn was the sole writer this time, and it seemed like he had control to do what he wanted. Gone was the dark humor, the mean-spiritedness, the adult humor, and the drug references. Okay, maybe not all gone. In my opinion, this film succeeds where the last film failed, and where the whole film just feels like a tribute to Scooby-Doo. Not only due to the appearances of the classic monsters, but also recreating settings and classic gags from the show. Because there weren't any executive meddling this time, this movie had more of an identity. Once again, all the actors give fantastic performances. This movie feels bright and colorful compared to the last film, where the colors look a little dull. It's really cool seeing all the villains from the classic show, but much like Cyberchase, it's really just the more popular ones, rather than all of them. Like the Black Knight Ghost, the 10,000 Volt Ghost, Minor 49er, even Chickenstein for a pup named Scooby-Doo. My friends JB and Millie actually interviewed some of the crew from the live action films, and apparently more monsters from the cartoon were going to have a role, or at least made an appearance, before they were cut, most likely due to budget. There's a lot of cool stuff in this movie. I like the shot of Redbeard's ghost ship floating down Coolsville, and I like the idea of a hangout where all the past villains go. There's a lot of laughs in this. Not all the jokes work, but when they do, it's hilarious. Especially this scene, it kills me every time.
Come on, Scooby-Doo! You're not being come! I needed that. I needed that too. You're pushing your luck, Scoob.
The action and chase sequences are well done, and there are memorable performances from the side characters, like Seth Green, Alicia Silverstone, Tim Blake Nelson, and the late Peter Boyle. It can be heartwarming when it wants to as well. Shaggy and Scooby's subplot involved them wanting to be better detectives, and before the chase scene, Velma gives them a speech of how they're perfect the way they are. There's actually a deleted scene on the DVD where instead of Velma, we get a moment with Shaggy talking to Scooby, assuring each other that even if they don't make it, they'll always have each other. This scene is really touching, and Matthew Lillard and Neil Fanny's performances really sell it. Much like the first film, it dreads the early 2000s cheesiness, and you don't mind because it really works. I mean, when your movie has a cameo for then American Idol winner Ruben Studdard, and the soundtrack has Simple Plan, Big Broves, and Clay Aiken, what can you do? Speaking of soundtrack, the film was marketed well, but not as big as the first one. I remember Burger King had some toys, and even Matthew Lillard and Linda Cardellini stopped by Cartoon Network's Fridays to promote the film.
We're a lot cooler than you.
And both live-action films had a good run on TV, running every year on ABC Family's 13 Nights of Halloween, and the first film even had its network premiere on Nickelodeon of all places. Looking back, it's not that great, but I'm in the minority of those who liked it better than the first film. I give it 4 boxes of Scooby Snacks. Before we continue, if you like this or any of my other videos, I would ask you to consider supporting me on Patreon, where every dollar goes to production like software expenses and getting these out on a regular basis. You could get early access, a special credit, shout out to a YouTube, Twitch, or blog, a commission by me. You could even request a Hanna-Barbera or Tom and Jerry special for the Funtastic Legacy of Hanna-Barbera minisodes, which could be anything from this list. If you don't want to, you could also donate to me on Ko-fi. And liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, and clicking the bell icon is much appreciated. Thank you all so much for your support. And now, back to the video.
Now arriving at Kids WB.
Toonami now begins with Scooby-Doo right here on Kids WB.
Scooby-Doo 2 was released in March 2004 to even worse reviews and disappointing box office, which led to the third film being cancelled by Warner Brothers and the cast and crew moving on to other projects, including writer James Gunn, who had a prominent career since then directing films such as Slither, Supers, and most famously, the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise for the MCU. In 2009, it was announced that Cartoon Network was airing a live-action prequel film with young actors to be directed by Brian Levant and released by the now-defunct Warner Premiere. I was in high school by the time this movie came out. Even though I still love Scooby-Doo, I thought this looked a little lame, but I was interested in checking it out anyway. I don't even think I was watching CN all that much at the time. It was during the channel's dark age in the late 2000s, and animation wasn't exactly high on their priority list.
It's no mystery who they are, and it's no mystery what they do. But do you know the mystery of how it all began?
We officially have a mystery on our hands.
Scooby-Doo, The Mystery Begins, coming this fall to Cartoon Network.
The film is an origin story on how the gang met in high school, and showing Scooby, voiced this time by Frank Welker, as a lonely homeless dog, who then meets the friendless Shaggy, and the two bond instantly. Through an altercation on the school bus, Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Shaggy wind up in detention, where they formed the Breakfast Club, Power Rangers, Lemonade Mouth, you get the idea. All of them, at least Fred and the girls, find out they share a love of mysteries. 3 ghosts attack the school, and for some reason the principal blames them for what happened, and it gets suspended. Now the 4 teens, and their dog too, must investigate and clear their names. I honestly don't have much to say about this film. I honestly found it kind of forgettable. It definitely has the look and feel of a Disney Channel movie of the week. I noticed when fans fondly look back at the live action films, they never talk about the CN films. One reason is probably because they're pretty boring. None of the young actors bring that much to their characters. I know they're trying, but nothing really clicks. The only person that actually comes through is the actress playing Velma. That's future pop star and queer icon Hayley Kiyoko. She does look and sound like the character, and she gets the personality down too. I also think she's pretty cute. Fred and Daphne are just there, you can have anyone play them, and the actor playing Shaggy tries way too hard. The effects are awful. Granted, it's a TV budget, what can you do, but this is just, ugh. There's also some weird choices they make in the film that don't follow up on. Like in this movie, Daphne is an aspiring theater actress, Velma is revealed to have a crush on Fred, and Daphne likes him too. That goes nowhere. Even the villain is forgettable. I kind of forgot what his plan was. Is there anything I liked? Well, pretty much every role he's in, Frank Welker is fantastic as Scooby, per usual, especially with what little he's given to work with. I like how some of these people go on to be big stars, like Hayley Kiyoko and Robbie Amell, who I really enjoyed in Code 8 and the Babysitter movies. And it's also great to see Dr. Robotnik, aka Gary Chalk, in anything. And there are some jokes that get a laugh. The movie aired September 13th, 2009 on Cartoon Network, and to celebrate, CN brought back reruns of the original series in a marathon leading up to the film's premiere. At the time, it was the most watched Cartoon Network telecast in history, being watched by 6.1 million viewers. Overall, I wouldn't recommend it, but it's not the worst of the movies. I give it 2 boxes of Scooby snacks. And now we come to the 4th film, Scooby-Doo Curse of the Lake Monster. Wow, what a mess.
Ah, summertime. It's the season for fun in the sun and relaxing with your friends. But here in the town of Erie Point, there are even more things to do. Like run for your life, scream, or if you're lucky, you might even get to solve a mystery.
You know, right now, I bet most people think we just scream and run away. I may be right! Ah!
Scooby-Doo, Curse of the Lake Monster, coming this fall to Cartoon Network.
In this film, the gang gets summer jobs at a resort owned by Daphne's uncle that's being haunted by a frog monster, which is the work of an old witch that cursed the town using moon rocks. If that wasn't bad enough, it seems like Velma has been cursed while Shaggy sporadically falls in love with her and gets the courage to ask her out. I want to get into something that really annoys me with this film, and that's the relationship drama, which isn't something I want to see in Scooby-Doo. Granted, I didn't like it when they did it in Mystery Incorporated either, but I could see what they were going for. Here, this one-sided romance comes out of nowhere and it amounts to nothing anyway, so what's the point? There's also these weird random musical numbers that are just awkward, and Scooby barely has a role, and when he is there, he just provides some very poorly done slapstick. There's some cameos in this movie like SpongeBob's grandma, Marion Ross, the late Nichelle Nichols from Star Trek, and the late character actor Richard Mole, who you may know from Night Court, Batman the Animated Series, and my personal favorite, The 100 Deeds of Eddie McDowell. Anyone? Really? Man, I'm really showing my age. The climax is probably the dumbest of all the movies, and the ending? Wow. This is a dud, not worth checking out. It's a definite skip. I give it 1 Scooby snack. 2018's Daphne and Velma, released by Ashley Tisdale's production company Blonde Girl Productions, focuses on our 2 favorite heroines, Daphne and Velma, rather than the Scoob himself. A solo prequel story of how the 2 met before they joined Mystery Inc., with Daphne's rich family relocating and attending Velma's high school, a high-tech school of the future, sponsored by billionaire Tobias Bloom. But troubles are brewing when some of the school's brightest students become zombified. When I saw this announced, I was curious on what they were going to do, and was interested. Then I saw the trailer, and immediately apologized to the CN Films. While I do admire the female empowerment angle, I think it's a little half-assed, but it has its heart in the right place. The whole subplot of Daphne's dad sheltering her is unnecessary and kinda creepy, and Velma's coldness to Daphne only to find out she's trying to protect her. Even when they reconcile, you don't really buy it. You don't really see them as friends either. I'm not at all familiar with the lead actresses, but I've seen them in other stuff, and they work with what they're given here. I just wish it was good. The dialogue is just as cringy.
D&V, what's up? What's good?
It's also a very ugly movie. The colors clash with the bad art design, and even for a mystery, you can guess who the culprit is right away. I do like seeing familiar faces, like Arda Marine as Velma's aunt. I don't think I've seen her in anything since Mad TV. And Daphne's father, recognize him? That's Brian Stefanik, who you may remember as Arward from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and as the voice of Lynn Loud Sr. from The Loud House. So yeah, I'd skip this one too. I thought the plot was dumb, the characters are boring, and it could have had a message about the over-reliance of technology. But if you love Daphne and Velma and always wanted to see them in a solo adventure, you might like this, but you probably want better. I give it 1 box of Scooby snacks. Sorry if it feels like my review of the last 3 movies are all over the place. They were a little after my time, so naturally I have the least amount of feelings for them. And now it's been announced that a new live-action TV show is in the works from Netflix. Not much is known about it or who's even gonna be in it, but given how it's from the people behind Riverdale, it doesn't give me much hope. And I generally hope they don't turn Scooby-Doo into some cringy CN teen drama. But I'm an optimist, so I'll give it a chance. I wonder how it's going to affect the fan-made Mystery Incorporated series. Time will only tell. How do you feel about the live-action Scooby-Doo movies? And which one is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, I'm 47 Cartoon Guy, and I gotta fly.